With the Phase 2 of Wrath just around the corner, the game will get much more content than just a new raid. And while all the changes and additions are a topic of another video, there's one major thing that opens up in Phase 2. Argent Tournament, a new major daily hub, will provide players with 11 purchasable mounts, which might just be enough for even the unluckiest player to get a mount-on-mount achievement. But even then, it's not like this is going to be a walk in the park to get, because there are still many requirements to get even the purchasable mounts. What are those? Let's see. First things first, the racial mounts. Getting your faction capitals to Exalted nowadays is a cakewalk, and the upcoming Argent Tournament dailies will make it even easier. Both Alliance and Horde have 3 factions selling 7 mounts each, and 2 factions selling 6 mounts each, which sums up to 33 mounts. Looks great, right? Deal with your major factions, and you're already a third of the way through the achievement. Yeah, this was the easy part. To round up our Aderothian mount collection, we gotta do some PvP. There are 5 more mounts available from each of your faction races, but this time they're painted black. With each of them costing 16,650 honor, you will need 83,250 honor points to get them all, which is slightly over the honor cap, but nowadays it doesn't matter much. Can easily be done in a weekend with a little thought to spare. And while you're at it, make sure to queue for Alterak, because the last mount we will get in mainland Azeroth is the Stormspike Ram, or a Frostwolf Howler. With that out of the way, we bring our total counter to 39. When you step into the Outland, you are brought to the guy who can teach you how to fly right as you land into our faction's camp. Near that guy stands another guy, who will send you your first flying mount after you train. And for the purpose of the achievement, we will take everything he offers, which is 7 Griffons or Windriders, bringing our total to 46. With the first flyers out of the way, we gotta grind some reputations. Starting off, we have Kurnai and Maghar. Both factions have some pretty interesting quest chains that bring you from the initial state of unfriendliness to neutrality, and lead you to their bases in Northrend. After finishing off their respective quest lines, you will be left off at Revert or close to it, at which point guarding the remaining reputation is pretty easy. All the ogres in Northrend drop obsidian warbeads, which you can turn by 10 pieces in exchange for 500 reputation. They're not a 100% drop, so be ready to spend an evening there, but it's honestly not the worst grind. You'll have to get through worse. With the reputation out of the way, we get access to 8 more tablets, which bring our counter up to 54. We're a little bit over halfway there already. Yay! At this point, we get our first reward, Argent Drake, bringing our total even further, to 55. Next up on our agenda are Shatari Skyguards. The faction is based in Skadis and has a quest hub in Blade's Edge. While you can resort to doing dailies for reputation, the mobs in Skadis give out some reputation per kill, and they also drop items which allow you to summon mini-bosses for more reputation, and also drop items that let you summon even bigger mini-boss for even more reputation. In other words, the Shatari rep is also farmable, but at a slightly slower pace than the previous one. Either way, after we're done with Shatari, we are able to gather 5 mounts and bring our counter to 60. Moving on, we have the most tedious rep grind in Burning Crusade, the Netherwing Dragons. Initially, the faction is locked behind a short quest chain, after which you unlock a daily hub, which will be how you get the reputation with this faction. There aren't any things to kill, and the only no cooldown repeatable quest is to bring a Netherwing egg to a goblin. The catch is, these eggs are pretty hard to find, and if you're playing on a populated server, you might get some competition. These days, it's not as big, but there are still people who haven't bothered to finish the grind back in TBC, and I won't blame them. The dailies are pretty boring, and some of the later ones needed a group to complete. Either way, at the end of your grind you will be offered one of the 6 drakes for free, and other 5 will be available for purchase for 200 gold each. With 6 of them in your stable, the counter moves to 66. To finish off the Outland reputation mounts, we have one from Cenarian Expedition, a 1600 gold hippogriff. Thankfully, the reputation is very easy to get, since you can bring yourself from neutral all the way to exalted just by getting enough plant parts and later Coilfang armaments at the auction house. With the hippo, our counter reaches 67, which is 2/3 of the way to 100. At this point, this is where we start to scramble for leftovers. There are two factions in Northrend who offer a purchasable mount, Sons of Hodier and Wyrmrest Accord. With the 2 Mammoth and a Red Drake in your pocket, we get to 70. Another merchant to sell some livestock is May Francis in Dalaran. While she as well sells the flying mounts that we got in Outland, she also sells some of her unique mounts. A premium Griffin/Windrider, an Armored Bear, a 200 Emblem Mammoth and a 16,000 gold Mammoth, altogether bring our counter up to 74. Another Mammoth available for purchase is hidden in Wintergrasp, and it can bump your counter up to 75 for only 300 Stonekeeper's shards. And while you're farming the shards, make sure to visit Heroic Colin of Stratholme and get yourself a pretty much guaranteed Bronze Drake to bring the total up to 76. At this point, you might start wondering, where do we get more mounts? We already bought everything there is to buy. Well, it's kinda true, but it's also not really. I never said it was easy, did I? To bring our counter up to 80, we gotta make a short, or not really, depending on your luck, stop in the Temple of Ankiraj. The trash mobs there drop 4 different colored Silted mounts, and while 3 of them are pretty common, the red one is slightly more rare and might have you make several visits to get. The good news is, you don't really have to kill any of the bosses to get your mounts, as there are some trash mobs in the beginning of the dungeon that you can kill repeatedly by resetting and re-entering. With that out of the way, we gotta do something that might dissatisfy you, but we gotta do that. Anything for those achievement points. There are 4 mounts locked behind professions, and while you don't have to keep the profession in order for the mount to stay, you will have to level it to the appropriate level in order to add them to your collection. Tailoring mounts are locked behind 300 and 425 skill, while engineer mounts are locked behind 300 and 375 skill respectively. The good thing is, this profession combo is actually not that bad for many DPS classes, so the chances are you're already rocking at least one of the two, and won't need to level both. Anyway, after tons of gold and time, you have your +4 to bring the counter up to 84. To get a +1, you will have to do some fishing. Yes, it is sort of RNG reliant, but with the turtle mount you're not bound to lockouts and hourly dungeon limits. Turtle is a perfect mount to +1 because fishing is a pretty brainless activity and the mount can drop from any fishing node in Northrend. Just run around, get some fish, and sooner or later you'll have your turtle. Another +1 will cost you some gold. Of course, I'm talking about the chopper. This bad boy can be bought on auction house or made by yourself, but even then you'll have to dish a dozen thousands of gold for vendor materials to make one. But we already bought a mammoth, what's another 16k, right? One more mount we will get is locked behind an achievement that's pretty easy to get, provided you get some willing people. In order to get the black bear, you will have to do some enemy capital raiding and boss killing. Depending on the server or time of day, it may be an easy task or a very difficult one. But it's not locked behind RNG, so that's another +1 in our pocket. At this point we're so close, yet so far. That's where the Argent Tournament dailies come into play. Phase 2 brings us the daily hub, champion seals and the corresponding rewards. The thing that we're interested in is of course the mounts, of which there are 11. Yes, you will have to do the dailies and farm seals for quite some time to get them all, but at this point it's much better to do some dailies for a guaranteed reward than to farm 11 different dungeons and raids every lockout for a minuscule chance of a mount drop. Of course, nobody stops you from doing that while you're doing your dailies, so at this point you might consider the Argent Tournament dailies your bad luck protection. With all the dailies done and all the mounts bought, you might notice the counter is still at 98. Well, that's where inequality comes into play. If you're a paladin, warlock or a death knight, you can get your 2 class mounts, which at this point you're probably already done, and get your dragon hawk already. And if you're one of the other 7 classes, you have another guaranteed option. Hala in Northrend has 2 more talbooks that you can buy, provided you have enough Hala tokens. And while blue tokens are farmable from any creature within Northrend, the battle tokens are rewarded for killing players of the opposing faction near Hala. At this point, the PvP there is practically non-existent, but if you have a friend, you could ask them to make a Death Knight and level them up a bit until they start to grant you tokens for kills. Yeah, that's kind of a win trading, but at this point, what else can you do? With the last 2 out of the way, if you didn't miss anything, you should already be at the achievement point, so congratulations on your Dragonhawk earned without a single dungeon drop. Terms and conditions apply. Thank you guys for watching. Leave a like if you found the video useful, make sure to subscribe to our channel, and I'll see you all very soon.